The guns have fallen silent, the stars have aligned, the great wait is over.
Genuinely felt like a fever dream. I was kind of saying it out loud. Oasis are back, they have returned.
Oasis, one of Britain's most successful bands, are back, announcing their return on social media.
This will be, I think, the hottest rock and roll ticket so far in pop music history.
The band are reuniting for a string of shows in 2025, 15 years after their split.
This is going to be, without doubt, probably close to, if not the highest grossing tour the UK has ever seen.
But how different is the country from when the band were at their peak in the 90s?
It sounds daft. You love each other emotionally from the heart. You love each other. You can love somebody and you can hate the guts as well.
And will this inspire a new generation of music fans, as well as the committed stalwarts who have loved the Gallagher brothers for decades?
Now let's bring you some breaking news because Oasis have announced a long-awaited reunion.
Yesterday it was maybe, today it's definitely.
Summer 2024, and music fans wake up to news which had been rumoured for days. One of the most successful bands in British music, Oasis, announced on X that they're getting back together.
I know my brother better than anybody else.
When both come together, you have greatness.
I had an inkling months ago. I interviewed Noel and I said, how are you and your kid getting on musically? What do you think's going to happen? So it started by saying, I'll never say never. And he ended by saying it would take an unusual set of circumstances for this to happen, but I wouldn't rule it out. It wasn't something that was a gripe and it wasn't a dig. It was this ambivalent, neutral answer.
So I heard something after Glastonbury. It's quite the rumour mill. And then a couple of weeks ago, that felt like the fire was being stoked a little bit and there was a bit more confidence in it. And then obviously over Reading and Leeds 2024, that caught absolute wildfire, didn't it? And ended up being right.
I think it's brilliant. I think they really should because it represents Manchester and that time in Manchester.
It's going to be brilliant, yeah?
You're going to go?
I'm going to try.
I thought surely not. I mean, I've heard Noel's getting a divorce, so he needs a bit of money, doesn't he?
I definitely wouldn't say no, to be fair. It would be amazing. It'd be iconic.
I mean, it depends what price they are.
The music that you associate with Oasis and the time that we're talking about, you can't replicate that.
I think Oasis defined that decade in a way, particularly at the start. That's why you said to me, oh, give me some examples of things from the 90s, I would say Oasis.
In 1994, John Major was UK Prime Minister, and Nelson Mandela had become South Africa's first black president. The National Lottery had just launched in the UK, and a loaf of bread cost around 50 pence.
Mid-90s Britain, we still had a Tory government. It was quite a rancid government, I'd say, you know, kind of on the edge of falling out, really. In terms of culture, we'd had a lot of quite important pop culture moments, I would say. Acid House was very important, we'd had Manchester, we'd had quite big youth movements.
Barbara, you were complaining that's not loud enough.
I would like to hear it as the actual sound, because it's horrific.
I think there was a difference about the kind of indie bands of the 90s. I would say that they had at least one person within that band that wanted to be a star. Liam more than Noel, I'm not quite sure, but I would say both. And then the other factor was these bands that really, indie bands that should have been almost on the outskirts, they should have just had an NME type fan base, became mainstream.
Oasis are being hyped as the best band around at the moment, but they do have a reputation for trashing hotel rooms. I wonder what this one's going to be like.
We just want to be the biggest band in the world.
As big as we can be.
Today, and that is it, end story. And we want all the things that go with it. Oh, I want to be a big pop star, I want to do loads of people's heads in because they're going, look at him, and I'm going, yeah. You know what I mean? But I want it and I'm not embarrassed about it.
In pop culture, bands like Oasis, Blur, Pulp and Elastica were at the forefront of a wave of new music that became known as Britpop.
Are we connected, yeah? Are we connected?
You will be after this. It's Elastica!
At that time, you saw a lot of bands come up because you were in London and there were lots of places where they would play, so you just turn up and you see them play. And you'd see bands that were not very good progress, and then suddenly they were good. And that happened with bands like Suede, Blur, Manic Street Preachers, all those bands. You'd have seen them before and they weren't that good. Pulp, they all grew into themselves. But with Oasis, they were ready.
As of talking to you, there hasn't been a band at #1 for a very, very long time.
Two of Britain's most popular pop groups have begun the biggest chart war in 30 years. The Manchester band Oasis and their arch rivals Blur released new singles today.
You definitely don't see the chart battles of Oasis and Blur like you used to, which is a shame because I really think it just adds that spark and energy to the chart, which is still so relevant.
In one corner, 4 young middle-class men from the south of England, collectively known as Blur, and in the other corner, 5 young working-class men from Manchester, called Oasis.
We have some exciting battles, of course, but it's not quite that kind of almost personal, vicious level that was.
The 90s was the last pre-internet decade when chart success meant it was guaranteed that pretty much everyone in the country, whether they liked you or not, would know about you.
All right, Kev.
I got caught shoplifting in that co-op back there, man.
The Gallagher brothers dominated the tabloid media, whether it was alleged stories about sex, drugs and rock and roll, or bust-ups with journalists.
Noel Gallagher was absolutely great with journalists. He would have drinks with journalists. He called journalists up because he was bored on tour. He just liked chatting, and he was very, very, very funny. Liam was also honest and funny, but I mean less at ease with journalists, I would say.
I'm a journalist. You want? Yeah, that's why I hate you.
So you've got an arrogant attitude?
I have. That's what makes Oasis, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
That's congratulations on the
Bollocks. How about that? Is that good enough for you?
You've got 2 kids from Manchester, from Burnage. You come from our background, you've got to fight to get anywhere. You know, Mummy's not going to get you a pony for your 15th birthday. It's not like that. You've got to fight for stuff. Nobody gives you anything. And again, you're often told by the powers that be, you're never going to amount to anything. So you become very confrontational. It's often the only way to succeed.
In August 1996, the band played to 250,000 people at Nebworth. That's more than 2% of the UK population that applied for tickets.
Noel, will you say hello to the ozone? How's it been going?
It's been going all right. It's starting to rain. All right. All right, you're right. It's starting to rain now, though. But yeah, it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant. Our gig's brilliant. In Nebworth, brilliant.
But as the 90s rumbled on, cracks in the band started to show.
The rock band Oasis have cancelled the remainder of their American tour, blaming what they call internal differences.
Noel Gallagher arrived at Heathrow tonight amid speculation that abruptly abandoning Oasis' American tour 2/3 through was a prelude to breakup.
The 1997 Labour landslide victory in the UK general election heralded the coming of Cool Britannia, a buzzword coined by the media to describe the UK's renaissance in art, fashion, design and music.
Noel Gallagher went to number 10 Downing Street. You know, obviously it's his choice, that's fine, but I mean, who does it benefit? It benefits Tony Blair. I don't think it benefits Noel Gallagher particularly, but when New Labour got in 1997, it was huge. I understand why he'd go. I mean, as a journalist, if I'd been invited, of course I'd have gone. You know, you go, don't you? You try and nick something from the bathroom. You see who's there, I get it. But there's a lot of people who think that pop stars shouldn't mix with politicians, and I get that. You know, it makes them seem, I suppose, less rebellious.
The band's reunion follows a 15-year hiatus.
Noel Gallagher has announced he's quitting the band Oasis. He says he can no longer work with his brother Liam after a series of rows.
I just said, fuck it, that's it. I can't do it anymore, you know.
My theory is that the best bands are an argument stroke love affair between 2 people in the middle of the band, right? And Oasis absolutely epitomise that. They're brothers, they can't, you know, so obviously they love each other, but also equally, obviously, they really irritate each other. So they're like the epitome of that.
In an interview with a music magazine, Noel spoke about his brother Liam. He said, "He's the angriest man you'll ever meet. He's like a man with a fork in a world of soup." The tit-for-tat, often public arguments have endured ever since.
Oh, I reckon he's in one of his really big houses eating soul food while having a face peel. And I like Mr. Potato, man of the people.
This is really unexpected, and I guess I really should thank our kid for singing all those great songs, but as he's not here, fuck him. All my own work.
What would have to change to get Oasis back together?
God, I ain't fucking changing, so that's that. I reckon our kid would have to change, wouldn't he? He'd have to stop acting like Sting.
I've always thought it's quite hard to cancel Oasis because Liam just says whatever he thinks, which could be anything. He could be calling you a potato, he could be calling you a pot plant. You know, he just says whatever nonsense is in his head, really.
Is that like a game and then you slap each other on Twitter and then you phone each other up afterwards and have a laugh? Yeah.
Oh, God, no, that's well for real, man.
Is it really?
Yeah. We don't like each other, man.
What do you miss about him?
Just being in a band, man, having a crack with him, you know what I mean? Having a banter and just having a laugh and just all that stuff, you know what I mean?
So they split in 2009, and that happened when supposedly Liam threw first a plum and then a guitar at Noel.
It's a real unnecessary, violent act, and he's swinging this guitar around, and he kind of, you know, he nearly took my face off with it, you know.
In the 15 years when they were not together, he got out on the road and he became publicly Liam Gallagher again. Highly loved, playing to a lot of people, voice is still good, looks amazing. There you go, right? Noel kind of got on with being Noel. He was bringing a family up, and then he hit a point where he split up with his wife, and once she was kind of out of the picture, maybe, this is the myth, I don't know if it's true, he felt more able to talk to Liam. However, I don't imagine that he picked the phone up or that Liam picked the phone up. I think there were people in between, and they just realised that everybody still really loves Oasis.
I suspect there's love at the back of this. With those two siblings are starting to get on well, and we hear stories in the media that their kids get on, and maybe their mum had part of the equation, then maybe love's at the back of it. And you know something? If you write great music, surely you would want to perform that music again. Why would you never want to sing Don't Look Back in Anger ever again?
In Camden, in North London, fans are
absolutely buzzing that Oasis are back together. Can't wait. Want to get a ticket badly.
I think the hardcore fans have been waiting for this moment for a very long time, and of course deserve to have their moment with their favourite band. But what they've got to understand is that a lot of younger people also love Oasis.
It's the best news in the world that Oasis are coming back together. It's what we need. Oasis is ingrained in Camden, as well as many other bands are. It's just the music hub. You know, we have so many Oasis fans into the shop, into the market. I think everyone feels the same, just elated that Oasis are going to be back together.
I imagine if they're going on a tour for that long, they will be. There'll probably be a punch-up or two.
People were like, oh, the rift is over. And obviously, to a certain extent, it must be, because they must be talking in order to organise the gigs. But I don't think they have to be talking that much. To be honest, you know, you can do big gigs and be quite separate from one another. Do you know what I mean? You can arrive in different vans, you can not really talk to each other until you're on stage. All of those things have been done in bands before.
And in Manchester, fans both young and old are ecstatic.
I just like the music. I like any music but their music, because it's local. It means more.
Manchester is an incredible rock and roll city, with all due respect to London and wherever. Starting with the Hollies in 1963, right through to now, we've had a constant conveyor belt of rock and roll bands.
Where Noel and Liam are from is basically kind of Burnage. It's near the old Man City ground. And they would also, I mean, everybody just went into town to go out. You would go to the Hacienda, you would go to the Ritz. I mean, I think To me, it was great, but I think now it would be considered quite grubby. Nobody really lived in town. It was all quite, it was a bit of a mess. And in terms of economic prospects, there weren't that many. You know, I mean, you know, what you could do if you grew up where the Gallaghers grew up is work in the biscuit factory.
I think when Led Zepp got back together, albeit without one of their members, there were 2 million applications for tickets. But for Oasis to get together after really the world assumed that would never happen. If you notice that the interest is intergenerational, where you would see grandparents, parents and kids watching.
In Burnage, where the Gallagher brothers grew up, local people are thrilled.
I'm not going to sleep tonight. I am so excited, but yet there's still that element of doubt that I'm like, please don't be just another record relaunch or something.
I've seen them both separately this year as well. Incredible. Both different concerts completely, but together, you know, best believe I'll be there.
And it's almost a chance to sort of relive your childhood a little bit and sort of live those memories, you know, even though it's, you know, I'm like 49 now.
Got to do it before us old guys are 60 and we can actually still stand up in a field.
So Burnage, you've still got terraced houses, you've got working class communities who'd been poor white working class communities for a long time.
When Oasis were last in the charts, people were buying CDs and cassettes to put them in the charts. Music is now streamed and listened to whenever you want, wherever you want, as long as you have an internet connection. Does the kind of traditional Oasis landscape sort of fit into that modern model? Well, Liam Gallagher's pretty funny on X. He's kind of got a reputation, hasn't he, over there. Noel's got some pretty good sound bites himself as well. So I think they understand the digital landscape and the power of it.
Record shop owner Pete from Burnage has a special connection.
Oh yeah, I was included in the lyrics of one of the songs off the first album, Definitely Maybe. Mr. Sifter thing, and never looked back really. We've been you know, signing autographs and doing selfies ever since, you know. So it injected new life into my shop. You know, I'm extremely grateful, believe me.
The rumours started, there was just a few little things that came out. One of them was an interview that Noel did with John Robb, who's a journalist in Manchester, and he was just really kind of more conciliatory about Liam.
The night we did Supersonic, I sing Supersonic with the same melody, the same words, the same inflections, but when he sings it, it's a bit more menacing.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing when I did an interview with Noel. I don't want to do yet another interview where he'd be saying that, you know, stuff about Liam and Liam would reply and that, and he seemed not interested in actually doing that thing, slagging off Liam, and he was very complimentary about Liam and actually truthful about Liam, that Liam is a great singer and a great frontman, and it's great to see in the interview as well. Do you think your voice brings a sensitivity to the songs, or a different kind of sensitivity?
Well, it's got something else. I think it's a bit more, if songs were drinks, right, Liam's is a shot of tequila, right, and mine's half a Guinness.
The interview is actually a really sweet interview, and at the very end of the interview, he said, it's not what I want, it's not what Liam wants, it's not what Creation wants, it's what the people want. The people want Oasis.
What kind of dosh could the Gallagher brothers stand to make?
Touring is probably your main funding for your band, your artist career, whatever it might be.
Money's got to be part of the equation. If you go back decades, you made your money from selling records and you toured to promote the record or to make a connection with your fan base. Now, that's where you make the money.
He thinks that I'm sort of like desperate to get the band back together and for money, and it's not. I didn't join a band to make money. I joined a band to have fun, you know what I mean, and get off my head and, you know, go and see the world and that, you know what I mean. If I'm on it, I'd do it for nothing. If everyone else is doing it for nothing.
But money's always nice, right?
$500 million probably on paper if they took it worldwide and do the number of shows in the UK that they should really be playing and could sell out. I mean, it's just unbelievable numbers that are being laid out.
So obviously it costs to put them, you know, to put them on, of course it does. But obviously they're going to make money. However, I think it's quite funny, the idea that they're just doing it for money, because I really don't think they are, because they've got money. So I really, really don't think they're doing it for the money. I think they're doing it because people want them to do it.
I mean, with 500 million on the table, I could probably see them managing to work it out, couldn't you?
Following much speculation, the Gallagher brothers have managed to build bridges, and for fans old and new, the reunion of Oasis is a major milestone in British music.
There's a lot of young people that feel very passionately about that band. And okay, they might not know every single lyric of every single song, but we should see this as a real positive. This is literally bringing generations together in one space, under one roof. What else do we have in the UK that does that?
When the gigs were announced, everybody was feeling a bit glum. You know, it was like the end of the summer. Keir Starmer had just made a really glum speech about how, God, the budget's going to be terrible and everything's going to be awful, and oh my God.
You spent a lot of time today looking back in anger, but are you happy that Oasis has decided to reform on your watch?
And then, like, Oasis are reforming, everyone kind of perks up. I just think it's quite cheering, you know. Bands and pop culture figures should be argued about. It's fine to argue about Taylor Swift. It's fine to argue about Oasis. That's good. That's what they're there for. Great.
If you're into rock and roll, it's massively significant. It's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest reunion in rock and roll in the UK.